Hey man, what's up? Don't worry, we're not going to talk about this week's anime. You know, it's because as the season goes on, I drop more and more shows. Think of like a reverse pyramid where it's really top heavy and I'm watching like everything, but then shows do some really stupid things and I end up dropping them. Arifureta dropped, Copcraft dropped, and the pyramid's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I need shows to watch. So this week, instead of watching this week's anime, I decided to watch all of Kirin Bytes, Kengan Ashura, and Baki. Why these three shows? Why did I decide to watch those shows now? Why didn't I watch them when they aired? Well, the first answer to that question is because Kengan Ashura and Baki are both shows licensed by Netflix, meaning that Netflix will not release subs for the show as they air. Netflix has to wait until they dub the show, and after the show is dubbed, will they release it for the public or for people who have a Netflix subscription to go watch it. So unfortunately, I was unable to watch Kengan Ashura and Baki when they were airing because there wasn't really a fan sub group willing to sub these series. With regards to Kirin Bytes, well, it's one of those things where someone recommends you to watch the show and you're going to watch the show and you have all the intent of watching this show, but things just happen and you end up not watching the show. Alright, so what's the common factor tying these three shows together? Why did I decide to watch all of these three shows? Well, it's really quite simple. It's not the 3D CG because all three of these shows use a lot of 3D CG, with Kengan Ashura probably using the absolute most 3D CG, Baki being a little less, and then you have Kirin Bytes using even less, but they still use it. And it's because all three of these series are extremely action based. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Anime just doesn't make money based on the actual anime sales. They make money on people buying figures. I look around me, I have like 12 figures here. I even have a Gundam. But if I look at my actual anime box set ownings, I think I own like 3 of them, and I've lost already 2 of the box sets. I think they're somewhere in my closet. The only anime movie I can see right next to me is this copy of Redline, because Redline was just that amazing. But very few people will actually go out and buy these anime box sets. What they actually do is they go out and buy figures. You know, maybe you see like a Pop Funko for the normies, or maybe you're some kind of hardcore anime fan, some kind of weeb, and you buy yourself a nice figure. Merchandising rights, that's where all the money is, so a lot of these shows will have kind of a throwaway cute character to kind of sell the show. But Kengan Ashura and Baki, they don't have that. They don't have that cute character. They have these really gritty art styles, these really violent fights, so they're going to try and make money off the actual anime, off the actual sales of the show. So I decided to watch them because of that. But why did I decide to watch Kirin Bytes? It has that cute girl, it has Inaba. I want to buy an Inaba figure. It's definitely going to make money based on figure sales, based on merchandising. So why Kirin Bytes? It has to do with the way the fights play out in all three shows. So in Baki, Kengan Ashura, and Kirin Bytes, all the fights kind of play out like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fights. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So let's say you have two characters A and character B. So we have character A walk up to character B, and then character A will say something along the lines of, yeah, that's right, I'm really strong. And then character B will say something along the lines of, oh yeah, I'm even stronger. And then character B will launch an attack at character A, and it will look like character B is winning. For like a solid 10 minutes, character B is just gonna go ham on character A. And then character A is just gonna spit out some blood and say, nice try, kid, but that was only 10% of my true power. From there, character A is going to power up, whether they like get stronger or they're flexing their muscles. Character B is going to be like, Nani? Nante osoroshi, insert power of the show. So they're going to be like, Nante osoroshi nen. If this was Hunter x Hunter, they'd be like, Nante osoroshi chakra. If this was Naruto. And then if we're lucky, a narrator is going to show up and we're going to get some kind of crazy backstory explaining how they get these powers and how these powers work. So it's totally not an ass pull to make the fight interesting. See, there's an explanation. It all happened in the past. He had this power. He was just pretending not to have it. He was just using 10% of his true power. Don't worry, bro. I'm not saying this because I hate this series. I'm not saying this because I hate Kengan Ashura. I hate Baki. I hate Kirin Bytes. I'm better than this. I'm an anime intellectual. No. These shows, they do the ass pull, but they do it well. If you can have a well done ass pull. They know their audience and they do an ass pull that's just so out of this world. They do some crazy plot twists that are just so out of this world. It's there just to keep the plot entertaining, and it works because it kind of keeps you guessing because you're not sure whose ass pull is gonna beat whose. If both Fighter A and Fighter B have access to the ass pull power-ups, then it's really not an ass pull. It's like fighting Broken with Broken. So you know Oh My Rubber Nen in Hunter x Hunter. The reason why Oh My Rubber Nen is such a big meme and is such a big ass pull meme is because Hunter x Hunter is so well written up to that one point. Hunter x Hunter has really good power levels, the characters, everything just makes sense. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. But now we have this power up that comes out of nowhere, and before that, no one else has had access to that. But in Kengan Ashura and Kirin Bites and Baki in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it works because Dio suddenly has the ability to freeze time, even though the picking up and freezing time of Polnareff, remember when Polnareff was climbing up the stairs, Dio freezes time, picks him up and puts him at the bottom of the stairs? That doesn't really make sense. It would make more sense that he had the power to rewind time, or like the part where Jotaro had Star Finger and decided to never use it again, or when Giorno, when they hit him, he could redirect damage. Remember back when Giorno could redirect damage? All that crazy stuff, it works because it's crazy stuff for both the villain and the main characters. That's what keeps the audience from jumping up and saying, holy crap, this is bullshit, I'm not going to watch this series anymore. If they fight Broken with Broken right off the bat, it kind of gives the series a free pass. If you count a 7 out of 10 on Mal a free pass. What I'm trying to say is this way of storytelling is good. It fits the medium of manga and anime very, very well. That's why it's such a meme. That's why you have people going around saying, forgive me, master, I must go all out just this once, or congratulations, you made me use 10% of my power. This trope is so prevalent across the whole medium because of the way the medium is produced. So anime and manga, in manga's case, you have weekly chapters if you're lucky, or you get monthly chapters, or even bi-monthly chapters. And in order to keep readers interested, they have to raise the stakes. But if you want to write like a really slow boil, like maybe a George R.R. Martin style story, and you have really slow boiling power levels, you're going to get axed. You're totally going to get axed before you even hit the main point of your story. So they have to start off big. They have to start off bombastic. They have to start off with some crazy kind of power levels. And it's generally those stories that survive and tend to get anime adaptations. And if we look at how anime is produced, you get 12 episodes, typical, for one season. It is virtually impossible to tell a good rising action, climax, falling action styled story, a more classic styled story within the anime format. 12 episodes is just not enough. If you look at something like Death Note, it took 37 episodes to tell the full story, and that's only because they were under the Shonen Jump umbrella. If you're under the Shonen Jump umbrella, you can have the luxury of like a 200, 900 episode anime, but for the rest of the shows, you're gonna have to stick with just 12 episodes, 24 if you're lucky. This kind of person A going stronger than person B, this kind of storytelling works in that specific format very, very well. Whereas a more classic format with rising action, climax, falling action, that kind of format doesn't work as well. If you look at something like Hunter x Hunter and we look at the original anime adaptation, that is something that's like that. They're trying to take the story and shove it into 12 episodes, but because the story is more of a typical rising action, falling action, they build up the characters, there's a lot of build up, it doesn't fit as well, and the adaptation is kind of some sections are really good, some sections are really rushed. But if we look at 2011 adaptation, where they have pretty much unlimited budget at this point to animate this show, it's paced very, very well, and that's because it doesn't fit the 12 episode format. It fits its own special format. A lot of the really good animes, they end on strange episode numbers because they're doing the adaptation justice. They're not trying to shove it into 12 episodes. But if you have to be shoved into 12 episodes, if you're not under the Shonen Jump umbrella, this style of kind of powering up storytelling where it's just really strong right off the bat and they do some kind of narrator styled fight works. And it works really, really well. I would definitely recommend you watch these 3 shows, Kengan Ashura, Baki, and Kirin Bites. Anyways, now that that's out of the way, I want to actually talk about these 3 shows. So let's start with Baki. Baki is the most recent show I watched, and we'll work backwards from there. So I didn't know Baki was actually an adaptation, or rather it's a continuation of Baki the Grappler, which was serialized back in 1991 to 99. So this is a really old series with a lot of history, and I didn't know about that. I kind of jumped into it like a zoomer. I didn't know anything about Baki. I didn't research it at all. I just saw it and I decided to watch it. And it was a really, really weird experience. I would totally recommend someone who has never heard of Baki to just start with the new adaptation. This must be what it's like for a zoomer to start with Boruto and be like, damn, this Naruto guy, I wonder if he has his own series. And I was just so kind of blown away by the size and scope of the universe. There's just so much lore they're pulling from that I have no idea what's going on. But because the show is built upon crazy fights and extreme violence, I could kind of enjoy it. I could just watch it and just be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. He just put his mouth to the guy's ear and then blew out his brains with his lungs. I had absolutely no idea what was going on, but I was impressed right off the bat. And because this is a Netflix show, they cannot care about stuff like censorship and just go ham. Like in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, they had to censor a lot of the violent bits where Jotaro punches someone and they just kind of like show a black bar on the guy's face. But in this show, they can just show whatever the hell they want because it's funded by Netflix and it's on Netflix's platform, so they can just do whatever the hell they want. And there's one scene that's a literal sex scene. It honestly felt like I was watching a hentai at that point. There was the nipple, I saw everything. Well, we didn't see it, actual penetration, but it was kind of close. They had the grunting, they had the nipple. It was at least Game of Thrones level. But what confuses me is that there's still some censorship. So they go ham on some sections that are extremely violent, like peeling the skin off some guy's face. But on some other scenes that are less violent, there's some censorship there. I'm not sure if it's because of where we live. Is it because we live in North America that there's some bits they have to censor and some bits they don't have to censor? Are there specific rules? I don't know. It was a little weird, but it probably won't hinder the enjoyment of the show. Animation wise, it's still the best of the three because it still uses 3D CG, but it puts the 3D models into already 2D drawn spaces, so they do it in the foreground and the background, kind of like Kimetsu no Yaiba, where they zoom the camera out and it's less obvious what they're doing, or they don't show the face of the character that they're using 3D CG for, so you can't really tell that they're 3D models. But if you look close enough, you can definitely tell that they're 3D models. I really enjoyed Baki mainly because the main character is already powered up, because this is a sequel, right? This is a sequel to the original Baki, so all the training stuff has already happened. He's already overpowered and he's fighting other extremely overpowered people, and that's what I really enjoyed about this series. It was like a breath of fresh air. There was no whiny main character. He was a teenager, he was assertive, he saw the girl he liked, he even banged the girl that he liked, all within 24 episodes. The only gripe with Baki though that I have is the fact that these characters keep coming back to life. Like these guys, this guy breaks a bottle and shoves it in the guy's face, and the guy is still alive. Or he stabs his finger into the guy's ear so deep that it touches his brain, like it pierces his brain, but he's still alive. Or some guy survives an explosion. He gets the skin peeled off his face and he survives. They definitely made death really cheap in this series. I can totally see why they did that, because there was one scene where one character I thought was going to die and I was like, holy crap, don't die, please don't die, bro. And he came back to life and I was really happy, but then after the happiness kind of wore off, I was like, damn, that guy should have died, because that's why I was invested. I was invested because I wanted to see some good revenge for my bro, but now that he's alive, it's kind of, whatever. It's done mainly just for shock value to keep people invested, and that's kind of a low blow, Baki. That's just a little bit of a low blow, but it's not too bad. It doesn't kill the series. I still ended up finishing it, and I might go back and watch the old series. I probably won't watch it. I'll probably just end up reading the manga at this rate. The next show I want to talk about is Kengan Ashura, and it's the show I watched before Baki, and I would not recommend you watch Kengan Ashura unless you saw Baki first, because Baki is infinitely better, and if you really enjoyed Baki, then you can go back and watch Kengan Ashura. And there's a main reason why I don't want to recommend Kengan Ashura, and it's because Baki tries its best to hide the 3D CG, and it does do some typical 2D animation for the fights, but Kengan Ashura is all 3D CG. All the fights are done in 3D CG. There is virtually almost no 2D animation. There is some 2D animation, but it's only done when we get the flashback for a main character's backstory so that they can power up, but otherwise it's almost all done in 3D CG. Later down the line, they try and splice in some 2D scenes. It's almost like they did the animation for the show entirely in 3D CG, but then they had some budget left over, so they contracted some people to draw some really nice 2D scenes, and they kind of just shove in these 2D scenes at random. I would more likely recommend the manga to someone than the anime, just because of the animation. The window dressing is just not there. But it's not so terrible. I can just dismiss the whole Kengan Ashura anime, because since they're using 3D CG, the fluidity of the fight scenes is really well done, and Kengan Ashura, unlike Baki, uses a lot more martial arts, and you can see how they use their fists, how they use their stances to kind of block or push other opponent attacks away from them, and that's really, really interesting. That was one of the cooler parts of Kengan Ashura, is the actual using of martial arts, whereas Baki, they do use martial arts, but not as much as just brute strength, whereas Kengan Ashura uses a lot of martial arts over just straight up brute strength. So if you enjoyed Baki, watch Kengan Ashura, but before you watch Kengan Ashura, have I told you about Kiringu Bites? Killing Bites, or Kiringu Bites, is a show that is very, very fan service heavy, and it's the show I watched first. If you're some kind of Redditor that's too much of an anime intellectual to enjoy fan service, then just skip this show, don't watch this show, and just jump straight into Kengan Ashura. But if you want to see some fan service with the fights, I would recommend watching Kiringu Bites over Kengan Ashura any day. Not only does it have better animation, it has a more interesting story, it has a self-insert for you, and it has some cute waifus. It's definitely violent, but not as violent as Kengan Ashura and not as violent as Baki because, you know, we don't want to see these cute girls get maimed. But it's still pretty violent. I think at one point some guy wants to rape the main girl, so she cuts off his dick, but it's okay because he's a 3D CGI monster and she's a 2D well-drawn anime girl, so it's all good, bros. In addition to that, Kiringu Bites also has a crazy, just as planned, just as my Keikaku predicted story. So if you enjoy that kind of just as planned story that just kind of blows your mind at the end, then I would recommend you watch this show. The animation for Kiringu Bites is a little weird because unlike Baki, which tries to hide the 3D CG, Kiringu Bites just has our main characters, which are 2D drawn anime girls fighting 3D CG monsters, so it's really obvious, but at the same time, it's not all 3D versus 3D like Kengan Ashura, so I guess animation-wise, I would put it behind Baki, so it would go Baki, Kiringu Bites, and then Kengan Ashura. Kiringu Bites also has a more interesting story in the sense that it's about people who can turn into animals, like these hybrid human animal things, and they fight each other, whereas Kengan Ashura and Baki are more like really strong humans fighting each other. So if you want to see some, you know, Neko Mimi, if you want to see some cat ears on some cat girls, or you want to fight some kind of anthropomorphic fighting humans, then this is more for you. So the order to watch is Baki, and then if you like fan service, you can watch Kiringu Bites. If you want to watch more fighting, then you can watch Kengan Ashura. But don't forget that these three series have either a lot of violence or some sexual content. So if you're not prepared for either, then these are not for you. These are not slice of life happy-go-lucky shows. These are not shonen level fighting. This is really gritty stuff with a lot of really in-your-face fan service that goes way beyond what you would see in a typical shonen show. Anyways, I'll see you later, bro. Train station's over there. I might as well head off now. That was a good talk. Let's talk about next week's anime next week, I guess. See you later, bro.